and what they didn't see.
Are you able to testify whether Amber Heard was the victim of domestic violence by Mr. Depp on May 21, 2016?
Based on our investigation, it appeared as if she was not.
Your investigation of what?
Based on her refusing to give any statement on what had occurred. And at the time, we did not observe any visible or verifiable injuries to her.
Tonight, all the latest from court as we try to figure out what really happened the night Amber says she was physically assaulted by Johnny.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And as we continue to cover the drama in the courtroom down in Fairfax County, Virginia, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, it comes down to what everyone says, right? It's the classic he said, she said kind of case, right? You've got two sides that experienced something together. It wasn't good. I think that's clear to everyone. It ended with a divorce, but what happened during the course of this relationship and marriage got ugly at times. But you have two completely different viewpoints of what happened and who was at fault and who's the abuser and who's the victim. Who's the survivor? It's a mess, but it's a classic he said, she said. Now, let's begin with what she said. And what she said is she's a victim of domestic abuse. That's clear. Amber Heard has said that. She went and got a protective order at one point. She wrote the Washington Post op-ed. And this is clear that she's saying, listen, I am the victim here. Johnny Depp is the abuser. That's what she said. But what Johnny is saying is that she's lying. She's not telling the truth. She has created some alternate reality that is not what really happened in this volatile relationship. And Johnny Depp has been very clear. I never struck her or any other woman. And in this case, we have not heard from any other women who claim to be physically abused by Johnny Depp. She's the one, but we know there were real problems, volatility and violence in this relationship. It's just a matter of which way was it going. So now Johnny Depp has to prove that she's lying. That's his case here in court, proving that she is a liar, that she lied about him being abusive to her. One of the things that they've done is call a witness yesterday, very important witness for Johnny Depp, a psychologist who evaluated Amber Heard and said she's borderline personality disorder. She's histrionic personality disorder. And that is important because you have to answer the question, well, why would she lie about all this? What is there to gain from it? You don't gain more from a divorce. There's no custody battle here taking place. You know, sometimes when people are splitting up and they've got children involved and there's allegations or maybe false allegations of violence in the home, all to get an edge, to get custody. But that's not the case here. So why would she do it? Well, Johnny Depp's explanation is going to be, is that because there's something wrong with Amber Heard. So you've got two diametrically opposed opinions or viewpoints on what was happening in this relationship. He said, she said. So the key may be what they said. Other people who witnessed this, other people who investigated it, other people who were there. This includes the LAPD. Because on one significant night that I really want to focus on tonight, May 21st, 2016, police are called and they respond and take a look at what's going on and testified in this case. So let's take a listen to what the first two responding officers had to say about what happened the night that Amber Heard says Johnny Depp struck her, assaulted her with a cell phone.
you had been on patrol as a probationary officer somewhere between a week and 3 weeks before answering the May 21, 2016 domestic violence call at Eastern Columbia building. Is that correct?
Correct.
Penthouse 3, PR received call from victim's friend Amber, assaulted by boyfriend. PR refused to give further. You see that?
Yes, I do. We checked the location. The husband wasn't there, and that the victim advised us that she just had an argument and that she wasn't going to give us any further information. And because we didn't identify a crime, we issued her a business card letting her know that she could reach out to us later if she changed her mind and wanted to cooperate.
Did you perceive any signs of injury to her face on that second occasion?
No.
Did you see any swelling of any kind on her face, either during the first time you saw her or the second time you saw her that night?
No.
Did you see any marks on her face, either the first time you observed her that night or the second time you observed her?
Just the redness, which was consistent with her crying.
Did you see any time that night any indication of any bruising on her face?
No.
Did you see at any time that evening any indication or any sign whatsoever of any injury to her face?
No.
Did you see any broken glass anywhere in the penthouse where you did the protective sweep?
Not that I remember.
Were you looking for any signs of a disturbance?
Yes.
Why were you looking for signs of a possible disturbance?
Signs of or any evidence that a crime has occurred.
So the responding officer saw nothing, saw no injuries, saw no disturbance inside the penthouse where this allegedly all took place. Important evidence, because Johnny's saying one thing, Amber's saying something else. So what is everybody else going to say? What did they see? This is the LAPD testifying in the case. All right, I want to really focus on this night of May 21st, 2016. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter joining us live from Fairfax County, Virginia, outside the courthouse tonight, like she is every night. And I want to get to the 21st, but Elon Musk's name came up during testimony today, and I understand you have some breaking news regarding Elon Musk and this trial. What is it?
That's right, Vinny. We just confirmed through Elon Musk representative that he will not testify in this courthouse behind me. He will not appear remotely in that courtroom or be called by Amber Heard's case. So that is the breaking news. And you're right, he was mentioned by the testimony of Christian Carino today, a good friend, former friend of Amber Heard, who confided in him about her relationship with Elon Musk soon after she filed for divorce from Johnny Depp, even texting or telling him that when she broke up with Elon in 2017, she was sad, she didn't like that type of attention, and he said he told her, well, quit dating famous men. So the world's richest man, Vinny, tech entrepreneur Elon Musk, will not be appearing in this trial. Okay.
The question is, will he tweet about the trial? He owns Twitter now, or is about to own Twitter. Okay, so let's get back now to May 21st, 2016, and I believe this is such a significant night because this was the incident that led to Amber Heard seeking that protective order, going to court several days later. So we heard from the first two officers who responded to the penthouse that night. How about the second set of officers? There were more officers that ended up showing up.
That's right. A second set of officers, one including Officer Gatlin, who also testified via pre-recorded deposition. Vinny told the jury about his very short visit to that penthouse. He again echoed the same line of testimony that he observed no damage to the apartment. He didn't observe any injuries to Amber Heard. He was about 10 feet from her, according to his testimony. He was only at the home a couple of minutes. It was a perfunctory visit because he knew that another set of officers had already been there. He didn't file a report, but let's take a listen to part of his testimony from earlier.
Can we just just come in and just check. We need to make sure everybody in here is okay, and then we. I don't know if she called twice or whoever called, but we just got another notification. So
it must have been today.
we just need to come in and make sure that everybody's okay.
Yeah, okay.
They're all good. Nobody else is in here.
No.
Okay.
The other officers came by and checked the apartment and the other apartment as well.
Yeah. Okay.
It must have been like a double call.
Okay. Who's Amber? Okay. Johnny
is definitely not here.
is not here. Okay.
So that's key body cam video. Remember, the first set of officers, Vinny, didn't have issued body cameras on their person, but the second set did. So this jury having an inside look to this penthouse. And again, well, I didn't see any damage, and you can kind of barely see Amber Heard in the distance there, but not much.
Yeah, this is extremely important because this is the incident, right? This is the one that, okay, I'm going to court to get a protective order so you don't hurt me anymore, Johnny Depp, yet police coming to the penthouse twice, not seeing anything, not making a report, not taking a complaint. And I understand that victims of domestic violence sometimes don't want to come forward. We never forget that on Court TV. But at the end of the day, this does not seem to help Amber Heard's perspective of what happened that night. It looks like a pretty quiet scene right there. Now, another witness today, an employee who worked at the building. And my understanding is he wasn't there that night, but he did get to observe Amber Heard shortly after all of this.
Yeah, this is a huge witness for Johnny Depp. Alejandro Romero, Vinny, he was the front desk worker of the Eastern Columbia building in Los Angeles where these penthouses were. He interacted with Amber Heard in the days following this incident, May 21st, 2016. He wasn't there that weekend, but when he did return to work, he heard about what happened. Let's watch.
One of the residents, they approached to me and they said there was a lot of noise because the person was working out on the gym that's next to the penthouse. They heard a bunch of noise, and that's it. And that's why I checked the camera. And when I looked at the cameras and I saw Johnny, like I said, was just walking back and forward in the elevator. And I said, like, okay, all right, okay, no, I'll try to figure it out. And I didn't say anything more. I turned off the camera, and that's it.
This jury has seen that video from the elevator where Johnny Depp is agitated. They've seen the video of him making his way up to the penthouse where he's calm, and then when he leaves the penthouse and he's rocking back and forth, that's what Romero is referring to, that he looked up after hearing about the commotion over the weekend, and he interacted with Amber Heard 5 days later, Vinny, May 26th, and said that he could not see any injuries on Amber Heard's face. And this is a day before she goes and files a temporary restraining order against Johnny Depp about what happened 6 days earlier, and of course, very publicly exposes a bruise on her face.
And that's Johnny Depp with the hat, right? And you can see he's pacing back and forth, and yeah, there's agitation there, clearly. Kind of takes the jacket off, takes it off kind of like that, and looks upset. And it's clear that there was a fight. The question is, did he strike her? Did he not strike her? So let's pull it back now. So Johnny Depp obviously saying, I didn't strike her, but what exactly is Amber's team saying happened that night that led to her going to court 4 or 5 days later?
A completely different story. They say that Johnny Depp stopped by the penthouse that night. He was late for something that evening. I believe it was her birthday. Or no, it wasn't her birthday. That was a month before. But he was there to pick up some items. Before he went on tour, Vinny, they had separated about a month earlier. He's the one that became enraged during that incident and actually threw a phone at her. Let's take a look back at the opening statements when her attorney describes her version of events.
You'll hear from many, actually, I don't know how many of the police officers we'll put on, but we have, between 4 and 6 LAPD police officers and experts who will say those police officers, even when she declined to cooperate, should have taken a report. They should have documented it. That was police policy. So when faced with this big public DVRO and all of the publicity later, now they go back to the police officers and say, hey, wait a second, you didn't take a report. You said it was a verbal dispute only. They're stuck. If all of that was true and they admitted it was true, then they violated policy by not doing the report because they were supposed to take a report. So the police officers chose the other and said, no, there was no evidence.
She's following up that, look, these officers should have investigated this more. They didn't follow protocol, Vinnie. When Amber heard her story, we expect her to testify next week, is going to say that Johnny Depp threw a cell phone at her during this argument, that he then pummeled her, the complaint says, with his appendages, and that she, again, witnessed him spread red wine throughout the penthouse, destroy the paintings, glass everywhere, and then, of course, he leaves, and that's when we see him on the elevator.
Okay, so based on those allegations, you've got no corroboration from officers who responded that night. You've got video from inside that doesn't necessarily show that from the body cam footage. So it looks like right now, as we sit here waiting for evidence, and obviously her case didn't start, we'll have to see where that evidence is going to come from, because right now it doesn't really exist. And even pointing the finger at the LAPD, saying the LAPD didn't do their job. We're used to hearing criminal defense attorneys attack the police for not doing the investigation. Here you have Amber Heard's attorney doing the same. But we saw the body cam and we saw what the scene was. It's like, what were they supposed to do? Fascinating stuff. Right. Channeling Painter, I know we're going to speak again in a little bit. Thank you so much. When we come back, we'll bring in our experts, and we'll also take a closer look as we try to unravel May 21st, 2016, a significant night in this case. Why is Johnny Depp so agitated on the elevator? And there's Amber Heard. Doesn't look agitated. We'll be right back.
SmileDirectClub.com.
Did you take any notes at all?
Notes of what?
Notes during the time that you were investigating this call?
No.
Did you take any notes after you got back down to your car about the call?
No.
Did you take any pictures?
No.
Did you record anything?
No.
Would it be fair to say that on 5/21/2016 at 9:22 p.m., you and your training officer, Science, considered this incident closed?
I said yes.
Yeah, the investigating officers closed the case. There was nothing. There was nothing to say. There were no injuries. There was no evidence of anything. No one's making a complaint. And it's over. They go and they leave. And Johnny Depp wasn't there either, so they didn't have to separate anyone. They didn't have to tell someone to leave. So the fight happens, again, we go back to that date, May 21st, 2016. What was the fight about? Well, let me warn you, folks, it's not pretty. Take a listen.
He's got it in his head that Amber has conspired with her friends to defecate on the bed. It's human, not dog, even though they got two dogs and one of them has major problems. You'll hear about Boo and Pistol. And somehow Amber was doing this so he would get back there and find it, even though he had no intention of coming back, and even though the housekeeper was there. And he won't lose it. He won't get rid of it. He's just obsessed with it. Then he decides that it's Io Tillett-Wright who did it, even though Io wasn't at the birthday party and wasn't even in town. So Amber gets Io on the phone. Io's in New York. And she says, this is what Johnny says. Can you please just calm him down? Tell him this isn't true. Tell him we don't have a conspiracy here. And Io's thinking, what? And you'll hear from Io, he'll say, Amber's fecal phobia. I mean, she can't even, she's so embarrassed about that stuff. She would never conspire, never do anything like that to him. So they're kind of laughing at the absurdity of it, and that was the biggest mistake, because that triggered his anger. And then he started hitting Amber. He grabbed the cell phone from her, wound it up and bashed it into her face. And you will see the pictures, you will see the bruise there, and you'll see the form of it there.
So unbelievably, this defamation case has been transformed into a defecation case. Unbelievable. Let's bring in our guests. Let's bring him in tonight. Joining me in New York City, family law attorney, managing partner at matrimonial law firm Berkman, Botker, Newman & Shine. Jacqueline Newman is with us. In Los Angeles, California, family law litigator and TikTok lawyer, Limor Mojdahizad. You can check her out on TikTok at Lawyer Limor, L-I-M-O-R. And in San Antonio, Texas, forensic psychologist John Delatorre. Whew, glad you're all here. Jacqueline, let me start here with the timeline here, right? We've been watching this trial and hearing about all these fights, fingers being severed, things being thrown, yet it isn't until they are separated that someone goes to court and police respond. Is that usual or unusual in a matrimonial breakup? And what does it tell us about the credibility of those claims?
Yeah, I can't say that I'm shocked by it by any means. I do believe from just what I've seen so far and what I've heard is that this probably was a ploy to strengthen any kind of future divorce case that she was having. I mean, if any of this was happening and there was violence, there would have been reports before, there would have been something. I mean, it is kind of a coincidence that, days later, all of a sudden she decides that she's going to go running to court and get a protective order and start the divorce and everything she was doing from there. So, I mean, I hate to be so skeptical, but
you guys are in it. You guys live this stuff every day. You've seen a lot. Limor, I know you've seen a lot. I don't know if you've ever seen what Johnny Depp saw in his bed, but is that the type of thing that people that are going at it, that it's just like a war of the roses, to use a cliche, that things like this could happen?
They always could happen. Did they happen in this case? We don't know. And I think something to remember is Amber Heard obtained a temporary restraining order against Johnny Depp. There's no finding of domestic violence by that order, right? So we're looking at the evidence now. I don't like the way she entered the elevator with her friends. 2 days later, did she really need to be protected from Johnny Depp? It's unclear.
Yeah. John Delatorre, let me just ask you about what this fight was about. How, and I don't know if it's true. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was one of those little dogs we saw on the body cam or if it was someone else. But to me, that gets to how bad this relationship was at this point. Either someone did it or someone thought someone would do it.
Yeah, and I think it's the second one, that someone thought someone had done it. And that shows a level of paranoia, a level of mistrust that was corrupting this entire relationship. So absolutely, could they have conspired to do this thing? I think it's pretty outlandish, but it's certainly possible. But I also think that it's more likely that someone thought or someone tried to make a joke and they end up taking it too far.
Now, I want you to listen to Johnny Depp give his version of what happened. We heard what Amber Heard's attorney said happened. Here's Johnny Depp on the stand telling us about that thing.
When I came back downstairs, she was on the phone with Io Tillett Wright, and they were making a wonderful point of just how funny it was that I thought that some human being had actually dropped a grumpy, pardon the term, onto the bed, and they were yucking it up. They were laughing about the whole thing, and it was it was a tough couple of days, and I really didn't feel like I deserved that kind of treatment. And I went over and I said, let me talk to her. I grabbed the phone and I said to Io, you can have her now. She's yours. She's all yours. Right? And then I took the phone and I just banged like that onto that side of the couch was 8 feet long. The other side of the couch was about 6 feet long. I flopped it onto the couch and I was walking towards the kitchen to exit, and then suddenly Rocky Pennington ran in to the penthouse and started, leave her alone, Johnny, leave her alone. And I was by the refrigerator at this point. I was 20 feet away.
I think one of the seven dwarfs may have a defamation lawsuit against Johnny Depp after that. But Lamore, let me ask you, Lamore, his description of what happened, does that sound like what would happen after you find a grumpy in your bed?
I don't know what I would do, and I've never heard a story like this, but it sounds believable. And I remember from the divorce case in 2016 that the news was that it was the dog Boo, right? So at first they didn't know, was it the dog? Was it Amber? They went into the size of the grumpy, right? So it sounds possible what his description, yes.
Okay, guests are staying with us. When we come back, we're going to listen to some more testimony from other folks who were in and around at the time of this argument, this fight, trying to figure out if this was the moment where Johnny Depp physically assaulted, physically abused Amber Heard, or is she lying about the whole thing? Don't go anywhere.
When you saw her at the front desk on March 25th, you didn't see any bruising, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't see that, correct?
That's correct. I didn't see any marks or bruises.
You didn't see any swelling either, did you, Mr. Romero?
That's correct. No swelling at all.
And she was only 3 or 4 feet away from you, correct?
Correct.
It's amazing people testifying from their cars nowadays, but that's the world we live in. Important issue here. Amber Heard says she was struck with that cell phone. She showed up in court and she seemed to have some mark. At least that's what we believe the photos and testimony will show. But before she goes to court, after the incident on the 21st, but before she goes to court, several days later, nobody is seeing anything. Take a listen to Isaac Baruch, who is Johnny Depp's friend who testified earlier in this case, was also very friendly with Amber Heard.
And what happened after you had that conversation with Mr. Drew?
We left the apartment and we go walking back towards Penthouse 1. And as I'm walking back, I say to Amber, as I'm walking up, "He hit you?" And she goes, "Yeah, he threw a phone at me and hit me." And I'm looking, because I had just seen her 2 feet away, and I'm going, "Where?" And she puts her head out. She puts her face out like that for me to look at her, the right side of her face. And I'm looking, but at that point also, I'm looking, and I turn around, get on the other side. We're in the doorway. So I'm on this side with the light shining this way from the doorway with the lights above, but the sunshine. And she's got her face out like this, looking, to show me. And I'm looking, and I inspect her face. I'm looking at her forehead. I'm looking at the side of her eye. I'm looking at her cheek. I'm looking at her chin. I'm looking at the other side of the face. I'm looking at the whole thing. And I don't see anything. I don't see anything I don't see a cut, a bruise, swelling, redness. It's just Amber's face that she's going like this and showing me. So I'm not seeing anything. I back up and I'm making a joke. I make a joke going, "Well, I don't see anything, but maybe all the beauty from one side of your face to the other side of the face is outshining everything, so I can't see anything." And she's laughed and she's, smiled. And I just looked at everybody and said, "Hey, it sounds nuts." And I went and I said, "I gotta go." And I gave her a hug and kissed her on that side of the face. Kissed her on that side of the face, and then I left.
Let's bring back in our guests, Jacqueline Newman, Lamar Mojdeh-Hiazad, and John Delatorre. Jacqueline, your thoughts about this testimony? You've got the doorman, you've got Johnny Depp's friend, who's also friendly with Amber Heard, not seeing anything immediately after.
Again, I'll be very curious to see what she's going to present that's going to contradict any of this, because looking at it, it's just not looking good for her. I don't understand why she would have waited that long. The fact that the police didn't see it right after, the fact that the friend didn't see it. So far, I'm just not seeing anything that could possibly support the allegations that she's making.
All right, John Delatorre, let me put a couple things together that Johnny Depp's team is doing. They had the psychologist testify yesterday who evaluated Amber Heard, said she was borderline histrionic personality disorder. And again, this is an if someone suffers from that disorder or those disorders, is it possible that they could take a cell phone and smack themselves in the face before they go down to get a protective order?
We'd have to make sure that's because both of those are pretty severe diagnoses, and they absolutely, an individual with both of them, absolutely could be so committed to the lie that they will do anything that includes even hurting themselves to perpetuate that lie. Absolutely.
All right, Lamar, in your years in these battles, have you come across in any of the cases, could be a client, could be someone on the other side, have you ever come across a situation like this where someone is allegedly inflicting injuries on themselves and pointing it at their soon-to-be ex-spouse?
Yes, I have seen that before. I've seen that before a few times, and you need experts like this to corroborate an allegation like that, right? And I think that from Dr. Curry's testimony, the biggest takeaway during the cross-examination was when the defense team asked her, did Amber Heard exhibit any patterns of behavior that suggest the allegations of abuse against Johnny Depp are false? And Dr. Curry said, no.
Jacqueline, your thoughts? Same sort of question from your experience, because you're in there day in and day out. These are bitter battles. Like I tell Lamar every time she's on, I'm a lawyer. I would never do this work. Never go near it. I was much safer as a prosecutor, right? Have you seen cases where people have inflicted harm upon themselves to sort of frame their ex?
Unfortunately, I have as well. Yes, I mean, I think people get desperate, and I think they buy into their story, and when they can't support it with actual proof, they create their own. So unfortunately, I have seen it, and I think we may be seeing it again.
Wow. Wow. All right, John Delatorre, let me ask you. She is going to testify, okay? If, in fact, she suffers from this borderline, this histrionic disorder, would that be apparent on the witness stand? Is that something, are there things that we should look for that would be noticeable? Is it different in different people? Are there certain warning signs, things that they may do, the way they may react to cross-examination, or in the way they tell a story?
I mean, potentially. The issue is going to be more in cross-examination, right? With the histrionic, the individual wants the spotlight no matter when it is. When it comes to borderline personality disorder, the individual sees all relationships as being all good or all bad. So it's potential in the cross-examination that if she's pushed by Depp's team, that she could absolutely start becoming more and more volatile and exposing some of these personality traits if they exist.
Now, this next question is a serious question, but I think I know the answer. But again, we bring you on the show because you all have seen a lot more than I have and the folks at home have seen. Is there any chance that they could reconcile? Like, we're watching this play out publicly. They're very extreme people. There are times during this trial where you could see or hear that, yeah, there was something there. Lamar, you can go first. Go ahead. Do you think there's any chance? Have you ever seen anything like it where people have gotten back together after a battle like this?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen it before. Absolutely. And I think one red flag that might tell us that they may reconcile is that they got married without a prenup. Johnny Depp, 30 years, 3 decades of acting, all those millions of dollars. We've seen that he's been paying for everyone's rent, their mortgages. He has 2 children. He had no prenup when he married Amber Heard. I mean, he was head over heels for her. She was head over heels for him. Completely toxic relationship, in my opinion. But of course they can reconcile. Will they? Oh my God, my mind would be blown if they did.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but great to have everyone with us tonight. Jacqueline Newman, Lamar Mojde, here's John Delatorre. See you again real soon. Thanks. We appreciate it. When we come back, we'll bring back in Shanley Painter, who's going to tell us about some things that our cameras didn't show you today inside the courtroom. Don't go anywhere.
I've always been a Johnny Depp supporter since I was a little kid. I've always been a fan. I mean, he's been in almost all my favorite movies. But honestly, even when he was like getting canceled and stuff like that, I mean, Ayo was always like, you got to separate the art from the artist. Even though he was being accused of all this stuff, and like, I feel like people are like really quick to just believe anything. And so I really, because everyone who's a Johnny fan knows that he's a really genuine person. You can just tell. You don't have to know him personally to know that he's a genuine person. He has a good heart. So I feel like all his real fans, all his real supporters knew that like something wasn't right.
And a lot of them are at the courthouse supporting Johnny Depp down in Fairfax County, Virginia. Let's bring back in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter outside the courthouse. So I heard that a Depp supporter was able to give him a nice gift today.
Yeah, well, actually, this happened last night, Vinny, but I caught up with her today, and that's Katie, who we just heard talk about why she's here for Johnny Depp. And she described for me what it was like, because she's one of the many who gather in the back of this courthouse behind the gate to get any glimpse of Johnny Depp as he exits there from the gate. This is what happened. This is her video. She crochets. She actually got it through the window, Vinny, and she was so excited to finally give him something, because a lot of these fans haven't been able to actually give their flowers or their gifts that they wanted to give to Johnny Depp. So she talked to me about that moment earlier today. Let's watch.
I made 2 hats, so I made like a little bucket hat with like flowers, and I made like a beanie, like a colorful beanie. And yeah, I mean, I had made a friend waiting in line, and during one of the breaks, he was like, "Oh yeah, Johnny's gonna be coming out the back. Like we should go see him." And I was like, because my plan originally coming here was, to support Johnny and give him what I made him as a gift. Just show support and morale. And yeah, so. Like, I want to say, like, once they announced that there was, like, 18 minutes left, we were like, all right, let's go. We need to, like, get out there. So we went out there, and we waited for him to come out. And, I mean, the police were like, like, get back, don't get in the row. Like, they were, like, patrolling. But once his car had came out, he had rolled the window down because everyone was there for him. He wanted to say hi, and they didn't slow down, so the car was just like going, and I was like, Johnny, like, please, like, take it. And I like kind of threw it in there. He was trying to reach for it, but like they were moving so fast, so I kind of just like tossed it in there, and he was like, thank you. And yeah, I was so excited. I was literally like shaking. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, he's super nice. Yeah. He seems like, he's taking everything really well. Yeah. I mean, everyone in the courtroom is like there for him, and I'm pretty sure he knows it. So like he feels the support. Yeah.
She's right. Just about everyone there is for Johnny Depp. Again, she's a local here. Brought him some of her crocheted hats. Also, not only do these fans, Vinny, line up right there when the gate opens, but also down the road. We got video from Becca tonight. This is Johnny Depp. He pulls out of the courthouse and he goes to an intersection, and police escort him. They stop traffic. There he is waving out the window, big smile on his face to the fans who are on the corner of the street as he leaves tonight.
And I guess they have to do that so he doesn't have to stop at the red light, because then he could have a situation. I get it.
Right.
All right. And then they do that when Chanley Painter leaves the courthouse, ladies and gentlemen. All right. How about the jury inside? How'd they react to what they were hearing today?
Well, this jury, expressionless most of the day. They heard a lot of depositions today, Vinny, so they were glued in on the screens in front of them, taking notes throughout the day. Nothing really overt until Alejandro Romero in his deposition, where he seemed to be in the car. He was vaping at one point, and then he drove away while on this deposition. That was comical, of course, to the gallery, but I did notice a couple of smiles from the jurors in that moment. Other than that, not much from this jury today. Super packed gallery, especially at the beginning of the day, though, Vinny.
Unbelievable. I mean, this is a sworn testimony that's going to decide the case, and he's driving down the street. It's unbelievable. Another guy I saw wearing a hat today.
Bizarre.
Yeah. All right. And how about departures today when Amber Heard and Johnny Depp were leaving? Anything happened?
Yes. Absolutely. Definitely a lot. I don't know which one we have first to play. Let's play Depp first. Okay, so Johnny Depp, as you know, he has the crowd waiting for him. Let's listen. Listen to what's playing in his car today. You can hear the fans, Phil Collins, blaring from the car. In the mornings, it's Bob Marley. Today, it was Phil Collins again, waving at his fans before he leaves. Now, much different story for Amber Heard. I want you to listen to how this crowd reacts when she exited this evening. So some jeers.
We're out of time,
Go ahead,
Shanley.
Vinny.
Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back.
Thanks.
prettylitter.com.
In Fairfax County, Virginia, actor Amber Heard says she was physically assaulted by Johnny Depp on May 21st, 2016. Days later, she went to seek a restraining order. Johnny says it never happened. Amber is lying, and he is suing her for defamation.
Never did I myself reach the point of striking Miss Heard in any way, nor have I ever struck any woman in my life.
Today, the police officers who responded to the domestic violence call testified.
If I would have like a black eye, I would have like, whoa, you know, I would have seen that. And I would have remembered. She was like 3 feet away from me. She was right in front of me. I just don't remember seeing any marks, bruises, or anything.
If the jury believes Amber made up this story about being physically assaulted, will Johnny win the case? Our legal think tank breaks it down. Also tonight, newly released evidence in the Alec Baldwin movie set shooting. Brand new video of Alec Baldwin being interviewed by police.
Who handed you your weapon in the day?
Hannah.
Handed it. Okay. And physically handed or put it in the holster?
Handed it to me.
Okay.
She would show me the gun.
Okay.
Or she'd say, cold gun. She'd say, test it, or some language to indicate she handed me the gun. Then it was fine. And she'd say, do you want to check? And I always didn't want to insult her. I said, we never had a problem.
Tonight, more video of Alec Baldwin not exercising his right to remain silent.
So my only question is, am I being charged with something?
Tonight's 13th juror question, whose public image has been damaged more? Alec Baldwin's or Johnny Depp's? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now.
Great to have you here on Closing Arguments. I'm Vinnie Politan. What a day inside the courtroom down in Fairfax County, Virginia. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. It's a defamation case, but it's all about domestic violence. And the question for this jury is, was Amber Heard abused by Johnny Depp? Johnny says no. Amber says yes. I mean, it's that simple, but it's not simple, right? So today, the real focus, a lot of the focus was on one particular day, May 21st, 2016. Because this is the incident that led to Amber Heard seeking the restraining order against Johnny Depp, okay? They're already separated at this point, by the way. They are separated, so they know that they're going their own way already, but they're together at his penthouse. And there is an argument, there is a fight, and something happens, right? It hits the fan, almost literally in this case. Anyhow, so for Amber Heard, her story will be coming next week when she testifies. And we know she's going to talk about getting struck in the face with a cell phone. Johnny Depp says, no, that didn't happen. So what is the evidence? And how is Johnny Depp going to prove that her story is a lie, right? It's his case. He's the plaintiff. He's got to prove that she lied about him and lied about this abuse. So it really began yesterday, part of the attack on Amber Heard, when Dr. Shannon Curry testified, the psychologist. Okay, this is the psychologist who evaluated Amber Heard, but has been hired by Johnny Depp. Here's what she has to say about Amber.
So borderline personality disorder is a disorder of stability. It's instability, and it's instability in personal relationships. It's instability in their emotions. It's instability in their behavior, and it's instability in their sense of self and their identity. And that instability is really driven by this underlying terror of abandonment. So one of the key features also of this disorder, and all of it is like pistons of an engine kind of firing off and igniting one another. But when somebody is afraid of being abandoned by their partner or by anybody else in their environment and they have this disorder, they'll make desperate attempts to prevent that from happening. And those desperate attempts could be physical aggression, it could be threatening, it could be harming themselves. But these are behaviors that are usually very extreme and very concerning to the people around them. Emotional reactivity is very common in the diagnosis. So essentially, like I said, there's instability in emotions. People with borderline personality disorder are often misdiagnosed as having bipolar disorder because they can be up and down. They can look very depressed, then they can look very elated, but these changes are happening within a matter of hours. With borderline personality disorder, you're having these fluctuating moods constantly. And again, this hypersensitivity to being slighted or feeling offended, really driven by the fear that if you're offended or slighted, if the therapist comes in 2 minutes late, or if somebody shows up to dinner 2 minutes late, that they might be abandoning you. And it's not as if the borderline is considering themselves abandoned in that moment, but they just know that they have this overwhelming emotion, and there are no attempts to control that emotion. There are no attempts to regulate it. So if they're in the middle of the restaurant and they feel offended, they're going to start the fight. People are going to see it, or they might just start crying or break down, but they'll make a lot of accusations. And that reactivity is when you're going to see a lot of this escalation in the bizarre behavior. They can react violently, they can react aggressively, they will often physically prevent their partner from trying to leave.
So we can put the pieces together, what Johnny Depp and his team is trying to convey to this jury and convey to the world is that Amber Heard has issues, serious mental issues. So serious that she can make stuff up. And that is the basis of these lies about Johnny Depp. That's going to be their case. And now I want to show you, though, another way to supplement that is to bring in other witnesses who were there that night, May 21st, 2016, when she says she was hit in the face with the cell phone. The assault that caused her days later to go to court to get a protective order. Take a listen to the officers who came to the apartment, who responded to the call that night.
And it's your understanding that you were supposed to be giving that pamphlet to victims of domestic violence on calls, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you provide a copy of this pamphlet to Amber Heard?
I did not identify her as a victim of domestic violence.
Did you perceive any signs of injury to her face on that second occasion?
No.
Did you see any swelling of any kind on her face, either during the first time you saw her or the second time you saw her that night?
No.
Did you see any marks on her face either the first time you observed her that night or the second time you observed her?
Just the redness, which was consistent with her crying.
Did you see any time that night any indication of any bruising on her face?
No.
Did you see at any time that evening any indication or any sign whatsoever of any injury to her face?
No.
No evidence. She's not a victim of domestic violence. No bruising. The apartment we saw the apartment. There was nothing out of place seemingly from the body cam footage of the second set of responding officers. So let me put this together for you right now, and I want to ask one big question tonight, which is if and again we know that Amber Heard will present her own testimony and her own evidence. But where we are now, if this jury believes that Amber Heard lied about what happened that night, made it up because she suffers from this mental disorder and she's out to get Johnny, and she made up what happened to her that night. If this jury doesn't believe that Johnny assaulted Amber on May 21st, 2016, the attack that led to her going down to court to get the protective order, does Johnny win this? Let me bring the think tank, get some answers. Joining us tonight in New York City, former senior homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona. In Los Angeles, California, former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, and in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias and the author of the book series Trapped with Miss Arias. Make sure you read it. Kirk Nurmi's with us. Bernarda, I mean, this is a very important night. Extremely important, very specific allegation, getting smashed in the face with the cell phone after the fight about the defecation, not defamation, but defecation in the bed. If the jury thinks this whole thing is made up in a lie, is Johnny going to win this case?
I think it's a strong argument. I think he does have a chance to win this case. And the reasons are because if she can lie about something so crucial as this one incident, even though she's claiming that there's more than 10 incidents of Johnny Depp assaulting her or abusing her, a jury can find based on credibility and the jury instruction, if she lied about a material fact, you can discount her entire testimony when she testifies or the testimony that you actually heard from her. So I think this is definitely crucial. I think Johnny Depp today made huge leeway in his case in the sense of bringing outsiders that have nothing to win or to lose based on their testimony who come in and testify. There was no corroboration. I saw no injury. I saw nothing that gave me alarm. And these are police officers going to the location. Not just because she didn't want to talk, but also just based on what they saw. And what they saw was something that was lacking, and that was no visible injury.
Nima Rahmani, I see how Depp's team is putting this together, laying the foundation with the psychologist, and then bringing in the evidence or the lack of evidence of injuries. Your thoughts? I mean, if they believe that she is a liar about what happened that night, does Johnny win this case?
You know, Vinny, I agree with Bernarda here. And every state has a jury instruction that says if a witness is lying about an important fact, you're free to disregard their entire testimony. And LAPD, and this is just 3 blocks from where I'm sitting right now. I mean, there were powerful witnesses for Johnny Depp, and I see why they decided to close with these witnesses, because they said they did not think that Amber Heard was the victim of domestic violence that night. So, you know, as far as Dr. Curry is concerned, I mean, she's a hired gun. She's not board certified. I set those witnesses aside, but you know me, I love law enforcement. They're independent witnesses. They have no reason to lie. They don't have a horse in the race. They're not getting paid. They're not on the payroll. So I thought those witnesses in particular were the best witnesses for Johnny Depp so far.
Kirk Nurmi, this is almost, you know, it's not a criminal case, but it has so many elements of a criminal case, like one side attacking the investigation. And now Amber Heard and her attorneys are there, and they've got to attack LAPD, that they're not doing their jobs, that they should have written a report, that they didn't, that they, you know, they didn't see anything, but they should have seen something. To me, that's a tough place to be in if you're Heard's attorneys and team and you have to make those arguments.
Well, yeah, it is, because you're saying you don't have a case on your own. In a civil case, you're saying we don't have the evidence on our own, so we're going to attack the investigation. And Nima's spot on when we talk about police officers as witnesses. Obviously, jurors love them in criminal trials. They believe they're objective. I take issue with that. But when we're talking about the civil context, and we saw these officers come forward one after the other saying they didn't even bother to give her a pamphlet, Vinny, that she's a victim of domestic violence. Think about that. They didn't even want to waste a pamphlet. And the things like that are going to stick into the jury's mind and say, listen, and the video, no disarray in the house, Mr. Depp had left, all the things that are inconsistent with domestic violence really taking place in that home. And it was powerful because in this case, they absolutely were objective. And there was really no point. The Heard team was attacking them for what they didn't do, but there was no to what end. What should they have done? What would they have found if they did all these things? And the answer is nothing, ultimately. So, yeah, I think they're failing on this point as well.
You know, the other part, Bernard, we're looking at this video, and I'm looking for the scene of domestic violence, and maybe it happened in a different room. I don't know my way around the penthouse, but at least from this video evidence, there is none of any sort of a brouhaha.
Exactly. You don't see anything that's in disarray in the sense of things on the floor or broken glass on the floor or furniture being moved slightly. As you can see, the couch is perfectly centered. He said it's 6 feet by 4 feet or 8 feet. I don't see that someone moved that couch. there's so many things that I can see that leads me to believe that there wasn't like a physical altercation. In addition to that, yes, domestic violence victims, normally they do not want to speak to police when the police arrive at the location. However, there's a slight difference and a change when the offender, the alleged offender, is not there, because that person that you're allegedly in fear of is not in the location, so you are free to speak. You don't have that here in the sense Johnny Depp is not there. So if something happened, you're open to say what happened. In addition, Vinnie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Amber Heard wasn't the person that called 911. If it was, I believe someone, she called a friend and told a friend something, and a friend from New York called 911 for California police to respond to the location. Because usually in criminal prosecutions, what we use to try to corroborate domestic violence is the 911 call, and here you don't have it.
Yeah, there were 2 911 calls. I think one was from New York, another one from another friend, but yeah, she wasn't the one making the call. But then days later, she goes down to get that restraining order. Okay, we're going to talk more about this case coming up, but next, Alec Baldwin. We've got some more new videos. Alec Baldwin, who shot and killed Helena Hutchins on the set of the movie Rust. His interrogation video. This is jaw-dropping what you're going to hear. But the big question is, as this investigation continues, is Alec Baldwin going to be charged with a crime?
you don't want to come tomorrow?
I mean, I don't think it's a good idea. Look, call me after you talk with the sheriff, but like, I don't think it's a great idea. I think this is, you know.
But let me just say this too, just to be clear. They're going to make me stay here tomorrow anyway to talk to my insurance investigators. This is really, I'll talk to you more, but I'm just saying.
I'm so sorry. You must have such you must be so traumatized.
No, what I am is someone who, I don't want to do this for a living anymore. I don't want to be a public person. And, you know, I'm the one holding the gun in my hand that everybody was supposed to have taken care of. They always hand me a cold gun. Did she tell you what's going on? I'm trying to convince her to come. I think we should come. And just spend the time here, and they're going to do what they got to do with and deal with what they got to do with. And we shouldn't let them. We'll go ahead and we'll go. I won't work and we'll go enjoy ourselves. It's all paid for. And they're not going to give us the money back.
And we should be staying away from the vultures here.
Are they outside?
No, but I imagine they will be at some point. They're going to find out.
It's a great idea. You should come for that reason also.
Fascinating moment in the interrogation room. Alec Baldwin speaking to someone, that might be his wife, I don't know, nanny, his publicist, I don't know who he's talking to, but trying to get him there. Interesting, though, that he's like, might as well stay here and have a good time. I don't know if he knew that Helena Hutchins had died, that he had shot and killed her. I think maybe at that point, maybe he thought he just shot her, which is bad enough, right? But I'm not sure if he knew that she was dead or had died at that moment. Anyhow, Alec Baldwin did a lot of speaking in that interrogation room. You know, you have the right to remain silent, but he did not exercise that right. Let's play for you more of this interview. This is a newly released investigative materials. The investigation is continuing. They have not made a decision yet on whether or not Alec Baldwin or anyone else will be charged criminally in this case. Let's watch.
Who handed, or should I say, who handed you your weapon in the day?
Hannah.
Handed it. Okay. And physically handed or put it in the holster?
Handed it to me.
Okay.
She would show me the gun.
Okay.
Or she'd say, cold gun. She'd say, test it, or some language to indicate she handed me the gun, that it was fine. And she'd say, do you want to check? Okay. And I always didn't want to insult her. I said, because we never had a problem.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I'm good.
So was it the first rehearsal that the incident happened?
Yeah, I believe so, because we talked about, as we were going to lunch, we always talked about what's next.
Okay.
So as we were rehearsing scenes, he said, now I want to do a scene where we've done other shots before lunch. He said, when we come back from lunch, we'll do this. And he said, I want you to pull out, show me. Because I was showing you what I thought was the best angle to see the glint of the gun under my coat. Because you want the scene to work, the shot to work. So where the holster's here, the gun is here, my coat comes around, and I held my hand like it was like I was just cupping my hands, like I was just resting.
Okay.
And I showed him in the rehearsal. So when we came back after lunch, we rehearsed for the camera, and I took the gun out really, I'm showing him, I'm going to go like this, like this, like this, the cock and turn, bang, it went off. The first time.
Okay, so it was your...
It was the very first time that we were shooting that shot, that we were rehearsing for that shot.
Have you, in your experience, ever been told that you're not supposed to cock the gun?
No.
No, you're okay.
He wanted me to cock the gun in the scene.
Okay.
He wanted it as part of the scene. He said, I'm going to take the gun out, turn, and cock it into to the right, my left, to their right of the lens.
After the gun was shot, who did you hand the gun to?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I made everybody freaked out. All I knew was the gun went off. She hit the floor. He hit the floor. He started screaming. He was in a lot of pain. She went into shock. She didn't talk.
Right.
Her eyes are rolling back in her head.
And then I want to come back to this. You said that when the gun went off, you experienced no kick.
Yeah, there was no recoil. There was no recoil. But I remember.
Okay.
I mean, literally, I'm holding the gun. And literally, slowly pull, turn, cock, bang. As soon as I cock it, bang! And I jumped. I mean, you obviously, that's the last thing you think is going to happen.
So what does this mean, right? You don't have to speak to investigators, but he did, and he's very open. He's not hiding anything. But is this helping him? Is this hurting him? What will a DA do with all of this? Right, the investigation is continuing. Let's bring back in our think tank, Bernarda Villalona, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi, still with us. Nima, former federal prosecutor. Bernarda, former senior homicide prosecutor. But Nima, let me start with you. As you listen to Alec Baldwin, on the one hand, I could see someone looking at that and saying, well, he's got nothing to hide. He's being very open. He's just trying to help investigators. On the other hand, he's speaking a lot. What he's describing, is it consistent with exactly what happened? That's debatable about the finger on the trigger, et cetera. Your thoughts about what we're hearing from Alec Baldwin describing what happened that day?
Yeah, Vinny, I've reviewed all the investigative materials, and I think it helps Alec Baldwin in his criminal case. Obviously, no criminal charges yet, but I think it makes it less likely that he is charged. Obviously, we have no intent for murder. It'd be a manslaughter charge, but everything he said has been more or less consistent. I think it hurts him with his civil case, but I really have 3 takeaways based on what I've seen. The first is that what he says, who handed him the gun, is inconsistent with what he told ABC and George Stephanopoulos. He told him that Assistant Director Dave Halls gave him the gun, and during that interview, he says no. Armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed gave him the gun. So I think that's one important inconsistency. But the 2 bases for civil liability that he really, and they've already filed against him, both personally and as the production companies, he admits to pointing a gun at another human being. Now, his argument's going to be that the cinematographer told him to, but he also admits to cocking the gun. Now, during the interview with ABC, he says, I never pulled the trigger. But during the interview with law enforcement, he admits to cocking the gun. And I think that those 2 things are going to be the basis for him to be held civilly liable, but I don't think he's going to be charged criminally, Vinny.
And you talk about finger on the trigger. The video we were showing is rehearsal that took place before the shooting, obviously, because they're not going to do anything afterwards. But as you see it, his finger is in and on that trigger, and he uses the thumb of the same hand to pull the hammer back. So we know the gun went off, and we know from the experts we've had on the show how that gun gets fired. Kirk Nurmi, from what you're hearing from Alec Baldwin, I know you, as a defense, you don't say anything, but he is. He's speaking. He's being very open. Is he harming himself here? Is he getting himself closer to an indictment or further away from an indictment with these statements?
I don't think so. And Nima's right. There's some inconsistencies there, but those inconsistencies, are they going to make a prosecutor or motivate a prosecutor to make charges? I don't think so, because look, we're just talking about this particular moment in time when we're talking about the negligence or the recklessness regarding a manslaughter charge. We're not talking about who handed him the gun. We're talking about what he did with it, what assurances he would have had, et cetera. We heard him talk about having a cold gun, right? The set term, a cold gun. So in that situation, I don't know that there's any recklessness or negligence on his part that we might typically see with a reckless homicide, a drunk driving, even Kim Potter grabbing the wrong weapon. We're not seeing any of that kind of negligence on his part and as it relates to criminal liability. So I think he's ultimately has helped himself in terms of the criminal case. And those discrepancies Neiman talked about might be the basis for a civil case.
Yeah, civil case. From my perspective, it's over. It's over. Just, figure out how big the check is going to be and who's writing the check, right? Bernarda Villalone, I want you to take a listen to the armorer because she was interviewed as well, Hannah Gutierrez. Here's some of what she had to say.
I heard the shot, and Sarah was like, "What was that?" And I was like, "Must have been a popper." And I turned around, and then I heard them say medic emergency, and I was like, "What the?" And then I checked in and I looked and I saw Alec on the ground and I was like, oh, not Alec, Joel. And I was like, what the was it, the gun? And Dave was like, yeah, it was the gun. And so I was like, I walked in and I tried to see what was happening or where the gun was, to secure the weapons on set. And I got yelled at. And I ran out, and Dave brought me the gun, and I opened the gun up, and one of the dummies somehow had been discharged.
Well, it wasn't a dummy that was discharged. It was an actual bullet that shot and killed Helena Hutchins and shot the director. Let me ask you, Bernarda, someone, I think, has to be charged here. If we're in this world now where we are charging people for accidents like Kim Potter, someone put a live round in that gun. Somehow a live round was in that gun, and people didn't check. People didn't make sure there wasn't a live round in that gun. Somebody has to be charged criminally, involuntary manslaughter.
Well, it's not going to be Alec Baldwin based on what we know so far. Unless you tell me that there's some kind of text messages or some calls or something where he's like, I can't stand this woman. She needs to die. She needs to go. So there's some kind of plotting to take her out. I don't see any charges for him. In terms of the woman that we just heard from, I want to see, is there anything that is inconsistent in the sense of that they find out that she was the one who put the live cartridges in there, and then she tells the police something different. Because you know, with a lot of prosecutions, the way that defendants dig themselves a hole is by saying something that is so materially inconsistent to what they can discredit, the prosecution can discredit. In the end, neither of these two people, Alec Baldwin or this woman, should have spoken to the police. They didn't have to speak to the police. They could have automatically just had an attorney present who will advise them not to speak to them. If they decide to speak to the police later, let's arrange something with the prosecutor where the statements can't be used against you. But that's when you need an experienced trial attorney by your side. I don't know why Alec Baldwin didn't have one.
He's Alec Baldwin. Come on.
He knows better.
Come on. You know the personality. And again, I mean, he seems to be very honest in what he is saying and trying to recollect what happened that day. But I don't know. I am still not on that boat that says for sure Alec Baldwin should not be charged here, based upon who is getting charged around the country for things that are somewhat similar to all of this. All right, we've got more of Alec Baldwin's interview, body cam footage as well. Don't go anywhere.
877-1298.
How's it going, sir? So my understanding, you were in the room when someone was shot?
holding the gun, yeah.
Okay, alrighty.
What do you need?
Well, I know your name, so it's
I'll call you back, okay?
Let me get with my lieutenant and see where we want you to hang out, okay?
Whatever you want to do. Whatever.
Yes, sir. All right.
That's Alec Baldwin moments after he fired that weapon. And again, at that point, he does not know that Helena Hutchins is dead or is going to die. But he does know 2 people had been shot when they were rehearsing the scene and he fired the weapon. I want to play more of Alec Baldwin's interview. This is, again, his interrogation. He has the right to remain silent, did not exercise that right. Instead, chose to speak to investigators. Let's listen.
Do you think that any part of this incident that occurred was intentional?
Well, I can only say this, which is, and it was, to me, to place a bullet and position a bullet that is a live round, to make sure that that bullet is in the chamber, if I were to squeeze the trigger in a rehearsal, that bullet came out, someone has to have extraordinary access to that weaponry to do that. I can't imagine somebody walked around with a round that was a 45 caliber round. So you see, other people on the set were speculating that if it was a 45 caliber round, she'd be dead. It would have blown a big hole in her. And so we're wondering, was the projectile that went in her some foreign material stuck? And it was an accident, it was a flash round, and something came out of the barrel. They didn't check. They always check. But
to your experience with these armor,
I've never heard of anything like this in my life. See, a very important question for Hannah is, have you ever commingled live rounds with theatrical rounds in your kit? Because they're forbidden to do that. According to, I think, the union rules and the safety rules for all the unions, you're not allowed to do that because of the fear of what will happen that you commingle. So whether someone accidentally, and I can't even imagine this, deliberately placed a live round in that gun, I've never heard of that in my life. I rehearsed with a hot gun. Now,
but you were supposed to be cold.
Well, it was supposed to be cold or empty, but now, not only did I rehearse with a hot gun, I rehearsed with a gun that had a bullet inside. If that's what came out of this show, this is the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, so yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure that anytime that you shot a hot gun, you've never seen anything like this come out before.
Never.
Because I'm not familiar with prop guns. I could tell you what a projectile looks like, and that does look like a projectile.
But see, that's a bullet.
But yeah, so that's what comes out of.
Well, I think the question, I mean, I don't want to tell you your job, but I'm so sickened by this, that a bullet passed through this girl's body. She's in critical condition in the hospital right now, and I fired the gun. And if you don't think I feel really, really about that, I do, but the question becomes, to ask Hannah, did you commingle live bullets? What they call live rounds. When they say live round, that's a bullet that a police officer would shoot. Where did that come from? In her kit?
Yeah.
She commingled live rounds with dummy rounds or movie rounds.
That is really the focus of everything in this, is trying to figure out how that happened. And then you can look at the other conduct of who was supposed to check the gun. Was it Gutierrez? Was it the assistant director? Was it Alec Baldwin? Because again, he also said in the interview earlier that, yeah, she asked me if I wanted to check, and I said no, I didn't want to insult her. Well, maybe you should be checking the gun if you're going to be squeezing the trigger. Let's bring back in our think tank Bernardo Villalona, Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi. Kirk, let me ask you about that, because we talked about this in the last segment, that no criminal liability for Alec Baldwin. Would that be consistent with anyone or just actors? Like if anyone is handed a gun and told that it's not loaded or that it's empty or that it's a cold gun, then anyone can take that gun and point it and fire and squeeze the trigger and not have to worry about being charged criminally? Does it work for everyone or just for actors?
Well, it's not a matter, Vinnie, of working just for actors. I think it's situation specific, right? We're on a movie set. We have all these safety measures in place that people are supposed to follow. We have an armorer who's supposed to take care of these things. So that is a very specific situation in which someone in Mr. Baldwin's situation could be comfortable or legally rely on their abilities when they're handing him the gun. When they say cold gun, I didn't want to insult you, he believes that Hannah is handing him a cold gun. So I think in this specific situation, this is where criminal liability is deflected because of the very specific facts in this case.
Okay. I see that, but I just, to me, it's so dangerous to have an actor exception for all of this, Bernarda. This is dangerous. It's you know, we worry about, you know, he's relying, he's at work, professionals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he didn't check the gun. He was asked, do you want to check the gun? He says, no, I don't want to check the gun. I mean, that's all right. Should he check the gun? Should every actor check the gun before they squeeze the trigger to see what's in there?
So, Vinnie, then the question would be, would he even know what he's looking for? So I know a person like myself and also former prosecutors and probably even defense attorneys too, that you know the composition of a shell casing, you know the composition of a bullet, of a projectile, of an unspent shell casing, so you know what you're looking for. So what if he did look in there? He doesn't know. We don't know.
Well, that gets to the next level. Should he know? Should you know? Do you have an obligation if you're going to be pointing guns at humans and squeezing triggers? These are not prop guns. These are real guns being used as a prop. Maybe you should get the training to do that.
Vinnie, this is not, there is no actor's exception on the book. I think one thing that everyone should know by now is that, look, what happened to Alec Baldwin, you don't want to be another Alec Baldwin, and you should be looking to try to prevent this from happening again. But that's when we have the huge difference between civil and criminal cases. The problem here is that you won't have the criminal intent to be able to charge him as of now, as of what we know from now, because things can change because not everything's being revealed to us.
All right. Nima Rahmani, let me just ask you a hypothetical. You're at the gun range. Don't know if you've ever been to one, but you're at the gun range, and the instructor hands you a gun and says, oh, don't worry, this one's not loaded. And you wave it around, you squeeze it, a bullet comes out and kills somebody. You're good to go, right? No charges against you.
Well, probably not, Vinnie. In terms of manslaughter charges, that's not enough to get someone charged with manslaughter.
I came up with an instant where it's not an actor. I love it. It's a lawyer, but it's not an actor. Okay, let's take a listen to Hannah Gutierrez, because it seems in this part of the interview, Alec Baldwin is really kind of putting it on her. She is the armorer. Let's listen.
Is there live ammo that's kept on set?
No, never.
Okay. Has anyone ever allowed live ammo on set?
No one.
Is she the one, Nima, if anyone gets charged, she would be the most likely to get charged? I'm not saying she's going to. I'm not saying that she should. But I'm saying, is she the most likely at this point in your evaluation of this case?
Absolutely. Hannah Gutierrez is by far the most likely to be charged with manslaughter. This is her one and only job, to maintain the weapons. And Vinnie, I think a charging decision has actually been made. I don't know what it is, but there's no way the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office dumps all this evidence in the middle of an investigation unless a charging decision has been made. And they're only waiting for 4 pieces of evidence: the DNA, the fingerprints, the ballistics. None of that's going to matter. We know what happened here. And then the contents of Alec Baldwin's phone. And like Bernardo said, unless there's some smoking gun, no pun intended, the DA has already made a decision, and we're probably going to get it in a matter of days, if not weeks.
Okay. And I don't think there's going to be any damaging text messages, but we'll see. Maybe there was something that we don't even know about that was happening on that set. I don't think so. I think this is a mistake that someone made, either in that box of dummy rounds. Somehow a live round ended up in there. I don't know how, but that's what investigators need to figure out. All right, everyone staying with us. When we come back, time to hear from you, our 13th juror, because Alec Baldwin was actually talking about Johnny Depp in part of his interview. We'll play it for you and then ask you, whose reputation has been damaged more? Is it Alec Baldwin with what happened on the movie set, or Johnny Depp with what's happening in the courtroom? Your verdict next.
been lucky that I've been able to keep one toe in the pool here and make some money and support my family. Sometimes it's gone really well, and sometimes, so-so. But now, where your name, if your name becomes associated with something, nobody wants to work with you anymore. Nobody. You get brought up with you're Johnny Depp and you're guilty of spousal abuse. That hurts you. He was on the top of the pile.
Right.
They say that you did this, or you had a car accident, you were drunk, anything that makes you look like the villain. you've done something wrong. Not that you were unlucky, meaning you fell off a mountain or nothing where it was an accident and blameless. Where you're construed as being to blame for something really, really heinous that your whole career.
Small world, right? Alec Baldwin, after shooting Helena Hutchins, talking about Johnny Depp. And now all of his interviews and statements have been released in the middle of Johnny Depp's trial. Got me thinking, all right, so whose reputation has been damaged more? Is it Alec Baldwin or Johnny Depp? We begin with our 13th juror, comment of the day. It comes from Carol. It says, Alec Baldwin, there's no comparison. You killed someone. Johnny has done nothing but fall in love with a crazy woman. Bernardo Villalona, who do you think is more damaged by their situation here?
I would have to disagree with the 13th juror. I think it's Johnny Depp, because Johnny Depp, with the Me Too, the cancel culture, when you're talking about domestic abuse, whether it's true or not, I don't think he can recover fully where he was before these allegations came out. People don't want anything to do with it.
Sue tonight. Johnny Depp's reputation is probably most damaged in Hollywood due to the Me Too movement, agreeing with Bernardo there. The fallout has been unprecedented. Alec Baldwin has not been accused of anything yet. Kirk, he hasn't been accused of anything, but he did kill someone.
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Sue on this one, because I think the court of public opinion is strongly in the favor of Johnny Depp. I mean, Team Depp seems to be the winning at this point in time, both in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion. They're showing him as a victim. He connected to his authenticity, connected to people, and to me, his star is only rising in this trial, and he's rising above these allegations with his authenticity. Whereas Mr. Baldwin, whether he gets charged or not, people are going to believe, and you've said it before too, the accident, someone's dead, someone was negligent. Are we just going to let that go? And there's going to be that lingering doubt with people whether he's charged or not. So ultimately, I think Mr. Baldwin is hurt more by all of this than Mr. Depp.
Fatima tonight, they're both innocent. One because a woman is kicking his reputation, the other because someone gave him a real firearm with a real bullet in it. Nima Rahmani, you're out there in Hollywood. Whose reputation is being damaged more here?
No question, Vinny, it's Johnny Depp, and I'm here dealing with this every single day. And this is why. He's already been canceled by Disney. He's already lost in the UK. And he's lost and gone up on appeal and lost. So don't get me wrong, he's making a comeback, and it may be an amazing comeback story for his fans out there, but he's way behind in a way that Alec Baldwin is not.
All right. Nima Rahmani, Kirk Nurmi, Bernardo Villalona, thank you for all your help and your valuable time. We'll see you again real soon. When we come back, folks, we're not done here. I need your help, okay? There's a child missing. I'm going to show you a photo, and you're going to help us bring that child home. Next.